So it's always difficult to go up right after lunch, right? I'm going to try and keep the panel quick, fast, interesting, and with your help, interactive. We'll run through a couple of questions that I have for the panelists, and then after that, open it up to the floor so that you get to ask your questions. Let me just start by telling you guys a little bit about the Hive. We're a platform that incubates and funds businesses in the area of big data and analytics. We like smart management teams that have good ideas and then invest in them and help them create a successful business. So we really focus on working with the promoters of these businesses and helping them get to the next level. But enough about me, right? I mean, I'd be happy to chat with any of you after the session if there are any questions. But let me get into our very exciting panel on the Internet of Things, or IoT as we call it. So, again, as I mentioned, it's right after lunch. What if I were to tell you that I know exactly what each one of you ate for lunch because there were sensors on your badges? Or better still, we have smart toilets today. So what if I told you I know exactly what you ate last night based on what you did this morning? It's scary, right? And that is the direction in which the world is going. There's smart cities, there's smart auto, there's smart health, there's smart homes. There's a lot of smart things going around, and it's become quite a buzzword. But we really have to kind of figure out what that means on the ground level. There's a lot of information coming out of various sensors all over the globe. But I wanted to point out that this is not just about information. This is not just about data. It's about what you do with it. I read a very interesting book on predictive analytics, and it talks about how knowing some partial information 2 seconds before an event is far more valuable than knowing 100% information after the event. So can this predictive analytics be used to prevent power plants from blowing up, from airplanes from crashing, from patients having heart attacks? Let's see and find out. I'm going to jump in with my first question. I'm going to ask each panelist to introduce themselves and also talk about Internet of Things and what it means for them, what excited them about it, and why they're involved in this space. So Vinay, let's start with you and work towards.
Sure, thanks. Okay. Hi, I'm Vinay Nathan, and for us at Altizon Systems, we deal with the industrial side of Internet of Things. And so for us, IoT is all about machines, equipment, getting them connected, driving data from them, and basically providing applications around predictive analytics and specifically around maintenance, equipment efficiency, and things like that for primarily the industrial world. In a sense, it's a bit like the fable, right, Cinderella, where you say mirror, mirror on the wall, and the mirror answers back to you. We are kind of building that mirror that can give you insight into what is happening either on the shop floor or out there on the field. For specifically on the other side of the mirror is the supervisory and the management layer. So there is a lot of systems already out there that deal with dealing with situations on the ground and dealing with staff on the ground. We are really about percolating that or aggregating that upstream.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Krishnan. I take care of actually Flutura. Flutura is a startup. We kind of operate at the intersect of machine data and big data analytics. Whatever Arihant was talking about, the 2-second advantage. We believe that actually it needs to have the data and the right set of timely real-time analytics for you to be able to go ahead and actually take the decisions. So at Flutura, what we focus on is, we focus on in the energy sector, primarily around oil and gas. We have actually certain things which are oriented towards safety and about asset integrity. And on the utility space, we focus more on the smart meter and smart grid areas.
Hi, I'm Apurva. We are a startup, that is SenseGiz Inc. We are more into consumer part of IoT, that is every person here may be a customer of mine. Okay, we are more into wearables as well as some equipments which work on IoT, and how it would be, like he said, if the car itself calls the ambulance, rather than you roaming out your phone and trying a big circus. And that ambulance has all your data, like what you're prone into, and that helps them out, right? Or you go in for a holiday and you're in an orchard and the orchard speaks about itself. Or you can say a Jarvis from Iron Man for everyone, right? You just command and that guy does all the work for you. So that is how imagination is the end point for it. So we are making some variables where we see that you are safe, that is, we sense your crashes or you fall down or something, and we give an emergency alert to your family people. And also a small tag which helps you not, or prevents you from losing things, which we do a lot, right? We forget things so much that we forget our bags or phones or whatever. So we just help you out to remind ki take your bags along, take your phones along with the tag which we have done.
Thanks.
Hello, I am Leny. So if you put all these three folks together for Siemens, that's what we are. We are a group of researchers working on big data technologies, how to make use of these technologies for Siemens use cases. As you know very well, for a big engineering company like Siemens, we have use cases in various sectors. You take the industrial automation where we have a lot of millions of PLCs which we have sold, and if you want to get the data from all these factory floors and so on to a centralized monitoring place where you can do this predictive maintenance of certain equipments, real-time condition monitoring and so on. Similarly, you have the trains from which you get the real-time traffic information, and then you also do the same kind of condition monitoring for these trains. And then you have the medical devices which are there in the hospitals, like ultrasound, CT, MR, and so on. For them also, you have to do the similar kind of use case. So you see the commonality across different verticals and find out a platform kind of approach for solving the problems rather than homegrown solutions. So we are more interested in the new emerging paradigm of big data technologies, how to ensure that we are not missing the bus, and we are actually ensuring that Siemens is taking care of its technological edge in this area. That's what we are into.
Great, thanks. So back to you, Vinay. We talked a little bit about the manufacturing space. And you've had some experience now, with working with auto component manufacturers in the Pune belt and actually trying to automate a lot of their productivity matrix.
Correct.
What are the challenges that you've found on the ground as far as infrastructure and sensor data is concerned in a space which we thought was was mostly automated, but clearly may not be?
Yes, you're spot on. When we work primarily in the auto sector with the tier 1, 2, 3 suppliers to the Bajajes and the Tatas of the world, right? And what we found extensively was the whole shop floor is a mixture of some equipment from the big guys, some equipment that is homegrown, and something that is sourced from a lot of local vendors. And so there are sensors. Very few of them are actually connected in any meaningful manner. And there is hardly any kind of operational dashboard that is provided to the management layer and the supervisory layer that collects all of this data automatically and provides it for them. So in a sense, we are at the very first layer of this standard paradigm of collect, process, learn. We are still, there is a huge gap on the data infrastructure side. So we started classically as a platform company in the software space, and then we decided, let's add the hardware piece. We added sensor data appliances ourselves because that was the only way we could get the data going from this equipment onto a platform. So there is, in my view, a huge gap and an opportunity for everybody in this room, entrepreneurs, around building these kinds of data infrastructures. And when you look at sectors like automotive, which are very large, there is definitely an opportunity space around that.
Great, thanks. So I hear you're kind of creating or creating a level where you form your own infrastructure to be able to accumulate all the information
Correct.
that you want to collect.
Correct. So essentially, we are owning up the charge of creating that data infrastructure. So the analytical layer is obviously something that we are very comfortable with. We have a cloud-based platform where we aggregate all of that, do the big data analytics on top of it. But having been also in a company and selling analytics for over a decade, there is all the analytical tools in the world are only so good as the data that you get. So owning that piece, is also something that we add on to and bring to the table.
Krishnan, from a very different landscape, right? You're in the business of saving lives. You work with oil rigs, both offshore, onshore, triangulate data across various sensors and predict blowouts and so on and so forth. What is the kind of sophistication that you have seen out there in the field, which might be different of what Vinay might have encountered in the Pune belt?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a completely contrary view to what actually whatever Vinay mentioned out here in the Pune belt automotive sector that we encounter when we are in Houston or when we are in actually any one of those rigs in which actually things are being operated. In our case, most of the areas are extremely well instrumented. That means you have a lot of sensors. You go ahead and actually look at it in terms of a top drive. There are already 28 sensors, 30 sensors that are already there, streaming in and pumping in the data. The value lies in, again, I go back to actually whatever Arihant said, in terms of that 2-second advantage. How are you able to identify your pattern? And how are you able to provide those lead indicators which indicate the deteriorating trend that creates value? And that's the area that actually we kind of go ahead and focus on. Same, even if you step outside of oil gas. In fact, actually, let me give you another perspective in oil and gas itself. Apurva was talking about actually wearables. Now, whenever actually we talk about wearables, we think about it saying that actually health, we need to be able to take care of it. We have got completely different applications that we have faced. Let me give you a story about actually an oil well in Saudi, which had to be shut down, primarily because a cook who was supposed to be limited to the kitchen in the oil rig. I don't know how many of you have seen an oil rig. These are very, very limited space that is there on top of an oil bed, bunker beds. You can only put in as many people who are there who can actually fit into those beds. One cook who didn't limit himself to the area that he was focusing on, he just meandered around and he touched something and the entire well had to be closed. You can imagine, oil doesn't go anywhere, it still lies beneath the surface. But the fact is that actually if a new well has to be dug, it is about actually a 2 months effort and it's $1 million a day. So we are talking about using wearables. One opportunity that we are looking at, one use case we are looking at is how can we utilize proximity sensors to try and see how we are able to go ahead and actually detect those patterns within oil and gas. So instrumentation, it depends. In the core areas, extremely well instrumented, infrastructure is strong, but there are many other use cases that you can go ahead and look at.
Thanks, Krishnan. That's like literally endorsing that data is the new oil, right? Because without data, you're actually not being able to pull the oil out. Apurva, I think from a very different context in the wearable space, and we're all familiar with these appliances that measure our heart rate and the number of steps that we take every day. Would love to hear your perspective on, your infrastructure is really the number of people that are wearing these appliances and how the information is collected from these appliances and therefore used for other purposes. Also would love to have some context about how it's done internationally as well as within India.
Yeah, this is a great topic you picked up. The problem, as you said, India and international, that we'll focus later. But with the variables, it may not be only like your heart rate monitor or your fitness. It may be, as I told you, your safety itself. It may be your house automated. Sometimes a simple thing. We put on a fan in the night, right? And we sleep. And in between the night, we start feeling cold. And we are really not in the mood of getting up and switching off that fan. How many of you would love to have something, just a swish on your hand and the fan is off? It would help, right? So that is how. There are thousands or numerous things which we can include. And why? What if it is automated? Like, every midnight you are waking up and you're just swishing your hand. And let the sensor itself do it on its own. Every midnight after 1 or 2 o'clock, it switches by itself. It would be something which you would not even know, or you would not even get up to feel cold or whatever it is. So we can store a lot of data. We can store your health-related things. We can store your likes, your dislikes. We know you all may be familiar with Pranav Mistry, right? So as he said, why not bring the physical world into the digital world? Or rather than bringing the digital world into the physical world. Anything, you just keep your ticket on your table and it gives all the details of the ticket. You just go and just make a gesture and clicks a photo for you. So if everything was on your gestures, how easy life would be, right? Rather than removing your so big phones nowadays. Phones are becoming bigger again. So you just remove your whole big phone and take a pic of yourself or something instead of making a gesture. So these sensors are trying to accumulate all these things. And this data then, as you said, can be put on an IoT or a cloud where we can have thousands of applications. We can share it with the hospitals. We can share it with government officials, or you can say a firefighter is going in. So we can make use of the sensors where it will help him to rescue those people who are actually in problem. So all such things can be put in. And as you said, on international, it is very much welcome. While in India, we are always prone to change, right? We don't like to change so easily. And people, we have to make, what we say, wonders. Then they'll say, yeah, we'll believe in it. Till then, nobody tries to believe in it. And due to some more problems like Android and Apple, which we are dependent on others, it is still a bit difficult to come with so much force in India, what it is easy to go international. This is what I would like to conclude.
Sure. That's interesting. And Leny, I think, Internet of Things literally means when things talk to each other. And based on the examples that we've just heard, these are things in diverse verticals. So from healthcare to wearables to machinery, when you're talking about a cook not being able to go into a restricted area, or you're talking about, turning lights and fans on and off, it requires machines to speak the same language. And that brings us to a certain level of standardization perhaps that might be required. What's your view on the industry? Are various industry players like GE and Siemens and Bosch and so on and so forth trying to create an architecture where appliances can talk to each other more seamlessly so that this trail of information can actually execute on the ground?
Yeah, so the industry players are well aware of this problem that we have to talk to each other in the same language. So gone are those days where we have these proprietary standards and protocols, so the information is very cryptic. Only the vendor who supplied the equipment can understand what the equipment talks about, right? So now we are moving to the world where it's more open. We are adapting to the open standards. Companies are joining together to create these standards. One such example in Europe is the Industry 4.0 project, which is funded by the German government. And they want these companies to come together and create a standard for machines to standardize the protocols and so on. So in the past, we had already some established protocols for different industries. You look into the industries like PLC devices and so on, you have this OPC protocol. And then in the energy, you have something like IEC 61856. And similarly, you have DICOM standards for the healthcare. So by adapting to the standards, which are well established, which are open to everybody, we are making the things clearer. I mean, the communication is going to become easier for the overall solution to talk to multiple equipments, collect this information and analyze this information. Of course, the schema, how you are storing the information internally depends on the use cases, because in some cases you are talking to some sensitive data. I mean, you're talking about some sensitive data. For instance, you are collecting this patient data on therapy, what kind of treatment was given to a patient, and how effective the treatment was, so that you can make use of this for the other patients. When they are coming with similar symptoms, you analyze this information and then make use of what had been arrived at, right? So then you have to basically anonymize because of the regulations and rules and the compliance standards. So you cannot expose a patient. So such things have to be stored within the country. US doesn't allow the patient data to be stored elsewhere. So all these things are in place, but amid the constraints what we have with respect to compliance, the privacy and so on, we are still having the openness in terms of adapting to the standards.
Great. We have one last segment that I wanted to bring up, and that is just to sort of talk more openly about what Internet of Things means, about applications, about use cases. And so I would love to start with Vinay, and you know, if you could talk about use cases, maybe outside of what we've already referred to, but where you see real-world application being built and being deployed around the entire Internet of Things area, the scalability, the kind of value or the problems that they're solving, some context so that the room can have their arms around, is this rather than a 30,000-foot view, what's really down on the ground?
Sure. So as I think we've captured.
And sorry to interrupt, but also to give context to techies and entrepreneurs out there as to where the next opportunity might lie in this space.
Sure. Sure. I'll at least share what our perspectives are in terms of when we looked at IoT and we built a platform essentially that can go across verticals. The reason we went after industrial was because we believe that that is a big segment that is untapped and where our strengths lie and all of that, right? And as I was alluding to earlier, this is a huge area by itself. So every time you're looking at a category of machines, and Leny mentioned 2-3 categories. Like when you talk industrial, it's like 100,000 plus categories of machines, and you're looking at building, finding ways in which you get them connected, drawing data from them. It's a minefield of opportunities or a gold mine of opportunities for entrepreneurs out there. Outside of that, and in a sense, that is why we built a platform in a way in which we could help anybody who has a product idea in be it a device, look at the device layer and the application layer, and then the rest of it they can service of our self-serve layer. So we anticipate a huge number of entrepreneurs to be created in this areas related to connected health in particular. Out of the ones, while there are a lot of nifty areas that one can get into, home automation is already out there aggressively, especially in the North American market. The connected health paradigm is probably the next big wave that we anticipate, which will see any parameter that you discuss, a device or an ability to aggregate data across that particular parameter, and being able to write an application that is personalized against that. Definitely there are a huge set of opportunities around connected health around that area. So these would be the top 2 from our perspective, with home automation kind of being already out there aggressively in the global market.
Great.
Let me actually give you one statistic. 2003, we had about 500 million devices which were connected to the internet. And at that point in time, we had something close to around 6.3 billion people in the world. Move forward to 2010, we had something close to around 6.8 billion people, and we had actually a much larger number of machines or whatever actually devices connected to the internet. We are expected to have it's expected to double every 5 years. And we will have for every person close to around actually 6 devices that are there which are getting operated. While we are doing all of this, we are still talking about probably Steve Jobs launching the mobile phone in 2007 and the smartphone era beginning. Beyond that, just imagine and roll back the amount of sensors which were already there in the B2B space and not being used. So to all entrepreneurs, this is a huge area. This is a very, very exciting area to be in. But the challenge is going to be in terms of what you focus on in going ahead and implementing. So let me give you some of actually the cases that we have looked at. In India, if you look at the utilities and the power transmission space, we are talking about 20,000 crores of AT&C losses. This is essentially actually some misappropriation in terms of this. We talk about 55% billing efficiency, which means out of the 100 megawatts probably we are shipping around, we are billing only 55%. I used to think saying that actually when we did that pilot out here, I used to think actually this is an India specific situation. We went to the US, I was delivering a workshop, and then at the end of the workshop, the Centerpoint Energy, the person who was leading the smart meter program out there, came back and told that in the US, there is a $6 billion loss that happens because of AT&C. These are huge problems that we are looking at. So this is one use case, one application on how you will be able to go ahead and actually leverage things. Let me give you another example. In fact, oil and gas is one of those industries which spends the maximum on safety, and they are extremely safe. You go to any of the industries, compared to them, the number of incidents that happen in oil and gas is actually much, much lower. But there the problem is, if an incident happens, the impact is massive. If you roll back and actually take a look at actually some of the incidents that have happened in the past, if you talk about actually Macondo that happened in the Gulf of Mexico region, $42 billion has been paid and it is still going on. So you need to understand and you need to apply and focus on where those benefits can come in and how it can happen. The same is true when it comes in terms of actually maintenance. People talk about, there are researched findings that are there, where people talk about 70% of the preventive maintenance that gets done does not help address any of the problems that are there. People talk about, actually all of us actually go and give our car and we go for an air filter replacement. 70% of those cases again is what people talk about as replacement of spares on a routine basis when it is not needed. Now just imagine, throw open your mind and imagine in terms of actually when you move from a breakdown to a preventive to a predictive maintenance, the amount of efficiencies that can be unlocked. These are all applications that are there, and for all entrepreneurs, there is a lot of possibilities.
Great, thanks, Krishnan.
Okay, I would like to add to the numbers which he mentioned. There are some research done by ABI and a well-known person known Gartner. He said around 26 million devices will be there on everybody's, maybe your homes, your body, or your vehicles by 2020. Or as per the ABI research, they said around 30 million devices. So you have your opportunity there. And to bring forward a use case, people went to Disneyland to enjoy the holidays, but they spend most of their time in just giving up for their rides or whichever restaurant they like. So it was just wasting money and time, right? Rather than having a holiday or just waiting in a queue. So they came out with a simple solution of a RFID tag. Very simple solution, RFID tag. So you just go, you swap your a tag, so it just intimates you when to come back. So you can enjoy other things till then. So you come back when there is not more rush, or you just come and have your rides waiting for you. So as I told you before also, imagination is what is going to be the full stop for this thing. This IoT, which is bringing the sensors and the cloud together, it is just what you imagine an application and you can have it done. The hardware is available, the technology has gone so forward that you can have things at your fingertips. You just have to know what to do and, as you said, what to do with that data. You can use it for your hospitals, you can use it for oils and rigs, you can use it to entertain people, you can use it for automobiles. Automobiles, I would like to give an example with Mercedes coming up with the latest headlights. It is nothing but sensors just sensing, and it interacts with the maps on its vehicle which is already there. And whenever there is a crossover, you will see the headlights just widening open. So you know who is crossing. So this is just nothing but interaction. So there are numerous things which you can just imagine. And you can say, yeah, this is the solution for that. And again, I would like to repeat, imagination would be the full stop for this.
Thanks. And I think that's, as we said earlier, a very scary propositions of machines telling us what to do, right? When to wake up, how much to walk, what to eat. Then we would love to hear from you about how, from a larger corporate setup, you folks are looking at in-house innovation around a lot of these parameters, and how you work with the young startups out there in terms of leveraging some of the enthusiasm and ideation that they have to offer.
Yeah, after burning hundreds of millions of euros and dollars, big companies have learned something which is very basic. The homegrown solutions, trying to build everything on our own. We are very crazy about doing that because being a software organization or engineering organization, we are plagued with this kind of craziness that I will do everything. So of late, big companies have realized that, okay, it's not possible to build everything on our own because of the very nature of the organization. We are very big. It's not possible for us to create one platform for all the sectors. So we have to look at domain-specific solutions, right? So that's where the opportunity lies for the startups. So like the folks who are with me in the podium, they have targeted specific problems for specific domains. Later you can extrapolate the platform. We can extend the solution for other domains. But to start with, you address one particular domain with one particular problem that you know for sure this is going to be a viable solution for this problem. And yeah, if you look at the investments which are happening in this area, big companies like GE, they are investing hundreds of millions of dollars in San Ramos to create a big data lab, and they have hired a lot of people from throughout the world to create this as a software headquarters. They call this as a software headquarters of GE. Similarly, Siemens is also investing a lot of money into this space. And all these big companies like Bosch, ABB, everybody is investing money into this. And yeah, as part of the relationship between the big companies and the startups, we always go and visit the startups which are very much interesting, which look very much interesting to us with respect to the use cases and the technologies what we are talking about. Recently, we went and visited a couple of companies in Bay Area. So yeah, there are a lot of possibilities out there as a startup to sell your solutions to a big company. It is not always that you will be bought over, but you can sell your solutions to them, part of your solutions with the IP and so on, that everybody knows.
So, and you bring up an interesting point between the Bay Area, and are you seeing the same level of innovation in India as you're seeing out west, or the numbers a little different?
Yeah, the ecosystem is quite different between Bay Area and India. Fortunately, we have Bangalore, which is promoting such entrepreneurs and this kind of culture in India. So we are also looking out recently off late, we came to know that there are a lot of companies in Bangalore, they are working in the same space. And for me, it's an eye-opener in this conference that I got to meet this gentleman who are working on very similar problems that we are trying to solve. So we can definitely synergize on these areas.
So great, you can acquire all the panelists or some of them.
I'm empowered to do so.
I would just like to add one point to what he mentioned. In the Bay Area, as you said, the ecosystem is very good. It's not only on the software companies they are investing, it's also on the hardware companies which they are investing. Yeah. But in India, we are facing a biggest problem is the hardware sections. People, the investors are thinking the inventory they have to keep, and the money which is staling in the inventory and all those things. So people are still not so open in investing on the hardware part. While on the software part, they are really open. Now e-commerce is the,
sure.
As you know, it's the fire now. So still people are still to come back onto the hardware side, which we are very eagerly waiting.
Sure. That you're open to sharing and being measured on and being rated on. But I guess that's a discussion that we can have another time. We've got about 1 minute left, and now it says 2 minutes overtime. So I know I'm being looked at to vacate the stage. So if there are any questions, we'd love to answer this offline. And thank you very much for your attention, and thank you, panelists, for sharing your views. I think this was a great, interesting effort.